afternoon. I'm Yonela. I'm a product marketing manager here at iKhokha, and I'm so excited to be your host for our very first iKhokha Live for 2026. It's so lovely to have you all here, and I hope you're feeling energized and ready for a powerful conversation. Today, we are deep diving into the real journey of building a business, the highs, the lows, and everything in between, with someone who has actually lived it. And on that note, I'd like to introduce you to our CEO and co-founder, Matt Putman. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Yonela. How are you doing? Hello to everyone online. Looking forward to spending this hour with you guys.
Great. So we'll be unpacking lessons, tough seasons, resilience, leadership, and basically the mindset it takes to build something meaningful. As always, this is a live conversation, so we want to hear from you. Later on, we will have a Q&A session with Matt, and we're going to give you an opportunity to actually ask him some questions, and he'll answer them directly. So please drop your questions in the comment box and stick around until the end for that session. So grab a drink. Okay, not a drink, it's a Wednesday afternoon, so maybe grab a juice or coffee.
It's 4 o'clock, they can have a drink.
On a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday.
Grab a light drink, a snack, get comfortable, and let's get straight into it. I'd like us to start at the very beginning. Do you think you were born for entrepreneurship? Do you think this is something that you were just made to do?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I think growing up in an entrepreneurial household and having entrepreneurial role models around you definitely helps give you that kind of that bug to want to do something in that space.
So I'm trying to think some of your early childhood interests.
Early childhood interests, I enjoyed school. I enjoyed lots of different subjects, but I enjoyed maths, enjoyed counting money. I enjoyed speech and drama as well. That was one of my favorite subjects, believe it or not. You can't tell from my monotone voice, but there was once expression in this voice. And then I had hobbies, I guess, outside of school. And I also had one or two entrepreneurial kind of hobbies that I leaned into in my journey as well.
So basically what I want to know is someone who knew young Matt.
Yes.
Would you say they could have predicted how you've come out now? Would they predicted that you would be a CEO or an entrepreneur? Were there any early signs when you were younger?
I think my mom probably did, because everyone's mom thinks they're special, right? And they're going to do big things. But yeah, I think that maybe some people, but definitely not everyone.
And in school, did you try run any businesses?
I did. I tried a few different businesses that my parents helped me with. The first was marbles then, it's obviously a very long time ago now. I don't know if marbles is still cool. Although my kids like marbles, so maybe it's come back into fashion. But I saw an opportunity where kids would play marble games, and if you lost the game, you lost the marble. And then I built with help from my dad and my mom, built basically like a wooden board with holes in it, and you had to try roll your marble through the holes in my board. And if you going from very small hole to bigger hole, if you did, then you got like marbles back from me. It was kind of like a marble casino. And I managed to win marbles from people, and then I would trade those marbles. So that was probably like grade 4, grade 5. And then a few other entrepreneurial things in high school. I used to sell CDs at school, so I was part of a club where I got discounts on CDs, and then I'd take orders at boarding school from guys who wanted to buy CDs. So that was a good way to make some pocket money. And there were a few other kind of harebrained schemes along the way.
You're giving away your age with CDs and marbles.
Very true, very true. We're going back to the 90s.
You mentioned entrepreneurial parents, or parents that inspired this entrepreneur in you. Can you tell us a bit about that? What did your dad or mom do that?
My dad, maybe for even more of a backstory, my dad grew up in the south coast in KZN in a little town called Ramsgate, which is quite close to Margate. Margate's obviously quite well known, especially for Joburg people. But Ramsgate, I think, was a very small town, as was Margate. You know, this is now many, many years before my time too, so probably 40 years ago. And my old man, his parents came from very humble beginnings. They didn't have money to send him to university, but he had his mom's best friend was a nurse. They were both nurses, and she never had her own kids, and she saved money through his whole school career, and had enough money at the end of him matriculating to send him to varsity for 1 year. So he went to UKZN, and he managed to then get bursaries for kind of the rest of his year 2 and 3, and then he got a bursary to do his master's overseas and his PhD. Wow. This was obviously before I was born, but he then came back to South Africa, worked for a business where he built some of the first TVs in South Africa.
How cool.
Which was apparently a very cool thing to do, very cool job. Everyone wanted to be your friend because no one had TVs, and they would watch kind of 2 hours of TV on a Friday night, and 30 people would pack into their flats and watch some arbitrary TV show. But he then went on to start his own business, and probably when I was kind of at junior school, Westfield Junior Primary, I remember my dad kind of building this company. It was in the kind of digital surveillance security space. But I spent lots of time after school sitting in his office while he worked. In the evenings, he'd often, if he'd wake up in the middle of the night, he'd go through and he'd still be kind of in his study working. So I think I saw kind of the commitments it took to be an entrepreneur. And also I saw moments where my dad was quite stressed, or at times maybe even afraid because things weren't going well. Yeah. And then I also saw the success when he actually built this business, and eventually he exited it to a group. And off the back of that was able to give my sister and I kind of very good education. So I guess I saw that, and I saw also in that office, every Friday night they would play pool, and as kids we'd get, all the kids of the parents who worked there would go, we get to play pool with the adults. So it was like very much a family atmosphere. But I think seeing that journey inspired me to kind of want to have my own business and want to create my own thing when I finished school.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Did you then, from that inspiration and a bit of the confidence of trying a few businesses in primary school, did you then choose to go study or go straight into business? Because you sound like you were exposed to the back of running a business, which would have made me want to go into business immediately. Did you follow that, or did you go to school first?
I took a gap year after school, so I went to the UK for a year, to London, which I loved. It was an amazing year, very informative year for me. But then my dad came across and he said, you need to come back and do a degree. So he dragged me back to South Africa. And while I was studying my degree, I chose to do a BA in Media and Communications. Okay. Which might not have been the best degree to build a business off, but there's lots of benefits to doing a BA, and I learned good things about marketing and telling a story. And anyway, while I was doing that degree, this kind of entrepreneurial itch was growing again, and then I got involved in one of my best friends, still one of my best friends today. His brother was one of the owners in a premium kind of nightclub in Durban called Tilt Nightclub. So hopefully some of the people
I know it very well.
It was one of the first I guess proper house music nightclubs, multiracial nightclubs. It was a very progressive space, and I started working there. Basically, they used to call me flyers because I used to take all the flyers. You go to the shopping centres.
Yes.
You'd see flyers in the shops, and on your car, you'd come out from a restaurant and there'd be flyers on your car.
Even in the varsities. They were full of those club
exactly.
flyers.
So that was my job, was doing flyers. And then I got involved in running the door, and then eventually they offered me kind of to basically become one of the partners in the nightclub.
Wow.
which whilst I was still doing my degree, I managed to convince my father to lend me the money, which took a while, but eventually I bent his arm. And then that was really my first real business, where I'd borrowed money from my dad and invested in this nightclub whilst finishing my degree at UKZN.
Wow. I would say you were definitely made for it, or built. It sounds like you've always had it in you. So that is the beginning of you. But now I'd like us to talk about the challenges of actually being a business owner. Yeah. I know there's usually the illusion that iKhokha is all smooth sailing, it's always been hunky-dory, but the reality is it was chaotic at some stage, like most businesses are. And people often see the success today and not the messy middle, and that's what I want you to share with us today, the messy middle. So do you mind sharing some of those challenges that came along the way from when you started to now 15 years later?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think maybe before even starting iKhokha, the involvement with Tilt and I guess at a very young age in my 20s, while still at varsity, getting involved in that business came with its own set of challenges. And for me, I was a lot younger than the other partners. They'd been in business for a long time. I was very green, but I learned a lot through that. I think a lot through that business. Things like the nightclub, we've had this chat before. In most businesses, you have to wear lots of different hats for that business to succeed. You might like something, you might be passionate about, for example, if you're a restaurant owner making food, but then you also need to have a successful restaurant. You need to be able to do marketing, do operations, make sure people get their drinks on time, make sure that you have systems and processes in place, make sure you're thinking about how much food you need. So I think in Tilt, I learned that you kind of had to wear many hats to be successful in business. And two of the founding partners of that business, I learned a lot from both of them in different ways. One was very good at marketing, one was very good at operations and customer experience. And I guess I learned some good skills from them, but also learned a lot about the challenges of business. Like there was times in that business where lots of different problems that you had to deal with. So I guess that kind of gave me confidence then to kind of take a leap of faith with iKhokha alongside kind of my father and Ramsey, who were the other two co-founders. But yeah, once we raised capital for iKhokha, I guess maybe important to flag that the biggest challenge was we knew nothing about payments, right? I was a nightclub owner. Ramsey had been working in a publishing house. My father had built hardware security products, but none of us had any real experience in payments or banking or anything. But through Tilt, I'd seen that there was a very poor kind of customer experience for small business owners, where like your kind of big traditional banks were providing quite a poor service offering. It was very expensive, it was very bureaucratic, and that was, I guess, part of the motivation or the idea around kind of starting iKhokha between the three of us. And then the challenges, I guess, we had to raise capital, which I'd never done, and I watched the Facebook movie. It was called The Facebook still.
How long ago is this?
Sure, it was, what would have been just before iKhokha started, so 15 years ago probably. And it was basically there's some cool scenes where they negotiate with private equity and venture capitalist investors and raise money. So I used some of those kind of negotiation tactics, and we managed to kind of close some capital. But then there was lots of different challenges that we faced. I think cash flow is obviously for young businesses and even for mature businesses can often be a big problem. It's, I think, the biggest challenge for most small businesses in South Africa. And we went through stages where we thought we'd have money in the bank to carry us through the next 12 months, and then things wouldn't go well from a marketing and sales perspective, or expenses would become much bigger than we thought they would be. And then we had this very real anxiety and cash crunch of like, how are we going to be able to pay people's salaries? How are we going to pay our bills in a few months' time? And one of the, I guess, the worst examples of this was probably about 10 years ago. We thought we were very close to closing an investment and getting money into the business, which would have been great for iKhokha. And from a Friday afternoon where we were kind of almost celebrating this, we got a phone call to say the funding's fallen through and the parties pulling out. And by the Monday morning, we had a call with our shareholders and they said, look, you need to halve your running costs by the end of this month. And we had to fly to Cape Town, close our office, retrench a whole amount of very good people at that point in time who'd helped us start the business, and we've really cared about the brand as we just launched in markets. And that was very hard and very sad. And we, I guess, had to bounce back from that. But we still had faith that the business could become something successful if we just kind of hung in there and if we were just resilient. So we kicked on from there, and then again linked to cash flow, which I think it's a big one. It's a big one, and it's a big mental anxiety for entrepreneurs. We went through a patch just after that, so again probably 10 years ago, where we would get funding month to month. Like, we'll give you funding for this month and then we'll see how you do, and then we'll tell you next month if you're going to get funding for the following month. And at that time we had staff, we had obviously expenses, so it was a very hard period for us as kind of a founding team and as a leadership team. But we kind of got through it.
I'm curious, at this stage, are you guys the only ones in the market, or were there other companies that were trying to do what you are doing?
Good question. So when we built the business case, there was just going to be us, right? There was no competitors in the space. It took us a long time to build the hardware that we then certified internationally. So we built our first card machines in KZN. We had kind of 2 engineers, and it was the first South African developed card machine that ever got internationally certified. But by the time we brought it to market, people internationally had built card machines. So we ended up with local competitors, and also the banks started to compete in our space. So went from a new space, lots of opportunity, no one playing in it, to by the time we launched, quite a bit of competition.
And they probably had more money, maybe.
Yes, they all had more money. I guess they all had probably a bigger right to win than we did. Mm-hmm. And we were, I guess, we were almost like the scrappy hustler type startup compared to the more polished businesses we were competing against.
And how did you guys deal with that, the competition and
I think it was tough, because initially it creates a lot of fear for us of like, are we going to be able to succeed? But we believed that, I think that the market was big enough for multiple parties to do well. There's a lot of SMEs in South Africa, somewhere between 2.5 to 3.5 million SMEs, and we thought, well, there's got to be more than one player, as there are in many other spaces. And we just try to focus on understanding what our customers needed, what their pain points were, and almost just, I guess, kind of focus on our own strategy. And we thought that if we could understand SMEs better than anyone else, then we would be successful. And as long as we worked super hard, we were close to our customers, we tried to incrementally get better every day, that we would succeed. But I think that, competition can also be a good thing, in that it inspired us to be better, both ourselves and our competitors. Having each other in the race was important.
Yeah, and I think it's a big one for SMEs in South Africa, these small businesses. Just an example, shisanyamas or salons, because you'll get in the same street 3 salons, 2 shisanyamas. And I think what you're speaking about with competition, using that to inspire each other in the race rather than like see it as a reason to pull out. Because something you were also saying, it also builds confidence in that industry. Because if I know if there's one chisanyama on a street or 2, then we all going to that street, and in 4 years' time there's like other drinking places. So I think it's a really good one for merchants out there to take away, that competition is not always a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think it's a good example, because if people know that if they go to the street they can get their hair done, whether because there's multiple people to choose from, then ultimately business is going to grow for everyone.
Great. Now that leads us to the practical everyday of business and the lessons you've learned along the way. lessons that we can actually share with our merchants. So as iKhokha grew, how did your role change, and how did you make sure you were hiring people who were right for the business? And I'm asking this because you started as 3 people, and so as the business grows, how does your role change within the business? And then hiring people, sometimes you find people have the right skill set but are not necessarily the right people for your business. How did you get that right?
It was a journey, I think, and I think that's the first thing was just being brave and having courage and putting yourself into uncomfortable or scary situations. You know, when I started iKhokha, I would go and present, try and, you know, we have to go speak to the banks, for example, who we needed to work with, to be like, this is what we're doing. And you'd walk into a room full of people in suits as a 20-year-old guy, you know, who was still figuring it out, and it was incredibly scary. But as you got through some of those meetings and you built context and you started to understand your space better, then, you know, the confidence came, and the next time it was less scary. Or you're speaking in your business in front of 5 people, maybe the first time you stand up, you're like, well, you know, do I sound like I know what I'm talking about? Are people interested in what I'm saying? Am I saying the right things? And then by the time you do it 5 times, you know, it gets easier and you build confidence. So I think that's probably the most important thing, and that's not just about entrepreneurship. I think it's any form of growth, is you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you feel vulnerable and you feel scared. So I think that was the beginning, and I was, I guess, as the CEO, I felt responsibility to be a good leader, you know, to the people that we had hired and that we were managing. So I tried to, I guess, work on, you know, how I was leading people, listening to what people, you know, what our staff, you know, what were they happy with, what weren't they happy with, what could we do better, getting mentorship from people to, I guess, get some good foundational skills on what good leadership looked like, reading books, reading articles. So self-learning was a big part of my journey. And as the business grew, you needed to lead differently at different parts of the business. In the early days,
I can imagine.
Yeah, you know, when you have 10 people, you're all friends, and it's a very flat structure, and everyone knows everyone, and everyone knows what we're supposed to be doing, because we're all hanging out in the same office. And as the business went from, you know, 10 people to 20 to 30 to 50 to 100, that changes a lot. So your relationships change, and the way you lead changes. And you have to, I guess, be aware of that, of like understanding what's needed for that part of the journey. And that, you know, it could be for an entrepreneur they're just managing themselves, and then they have one staff member, and that's a big adjustment.
It just changes.
It just changes, and I think you know, as your business grows, you've got to figure that out.
And as you're talking about the growth and having more people in your business, I'm just thinking of trust now, because you've got, like you said, you had Ramsey and your father, which are people you grew up with and you trusted. As you hired leaders in the business, how can you talk us through the process of starting to trust people with the business and certain decisions, and basically having to let go of that control? Because like you said, when it's 10 people versus 200 people, can't control every aspect of the business. How can you just talk us through that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a thing that and we've spoken about this, but a thing that I learned through the journey was, initially I thought, well, I'm just going to work harder than everyone else. So I would work 6 days a week.
Sure.
You know, I'd be at the office, I'd be like, why is everyone going home? It's only 6:30 at night. For a long time. But eventually you realize that you can work as hard as you can work, but you can only output so much as one person. So really, if you want to grow and be successful, you have to lead and deliver through other people. So I think that was quite a light bulb kind of moment for me, was figuring that out. And in terms of the things that inhibit growth in business is there's different things, but one of the key things is actually people. Do you have the right processes, systems in place, and the people in place to grow? And when we started hiring people, we would always try to hire people who we thought were aligned to our purpose. They actually wanted to help SMEs, and they be able to start, manage, and grow their business. They thought there was a better way to do things than the traditional corporate way that SMEs are being served. So those were kind of two big things. So I think purpose was really important. Finding people wanting to help SMEs, help make South Africa a better place. And then the second thing we always looked for was really attitude. Like, did people, were they prepared to put themselves in uncomfortable positions? Mm-hmm. Could they figure things out by themselves? Were they good under pressure? And we would focus on that more than maybe did they have like deep domain knowledge, attitude, and did they have low ego? Were they actually nice people?
That's an important one.
Yeah, do you want to work with these people? Are they willing to learn? Do they know where their gaps are, or do they have big egos and they think they know everything? If it was the latter, then we didn't hire them generally.
I'm just thinking, so as your business is now growing, you're hiring people. Was your vision always that, having 10 people, 100 people, or 200 people? When there were 3 of you versus when there are now 100, did the vision change along the way? Or should I ask, what was the vision in terms of the growth of the business?
I think initially I never thought about the fact that to build a big business you need lots of people. It seems like an obvious thing now, right? But at the time there was a spreadsheet, and it was, we'll have one customer, then there'll be 100, then 1,000, then 10,000. You didn't actually think, well, if you have 10,000 customers, you actually have quite a lot of people to do all of these jobs in the business. I think that part I underestimated, and I underestimated how important it was to become a good leader, because if you have lots of people and you don't have strong leadership, people don't know what to do, they're not all kind of going in the same direction. So I think that was something we learned along the way. But there became a point where when the business was starting to really do well, we'd kind of proven that there was a need in the markets, the product was getting good product market fits, we're getting more and more customers. And then I realized that to get to like the next level, we actually really needed to hire a lot of people. And we kind of went from maybe 50 people at the time to maybe 200 people in like, I think maybe 12, 18 months. So we had to hire a lot of people. And that was it was actually a really cool part of the journey, because you were building, you were kind of building this out, hiring, trying to hire good people and trying to figure out the right structures as you went.
And I'm sure you as a leader are also growing at the same time with the business, with the people. And you mentioned mentorship. And I just want to bring it back to other entrepreneurs. Is that something that really got you through? Should most entrepreneurs or all entrepreneurs have some sort of mentorship or somebody they look up to that can guide? Because it is quite a big growth, and leadership is not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, I think that mentorship is good for all people, and whether it's I think having someone who you can get advice from as an entrepreneur is good, and that could be someone who's led businesses that you can learn from their mistakes and their experience, and can help you can help take little bits of what worked for them and then make it relevant in your world. But I think also linked to that, another thing that I found super helpful is actually not just mentorship, but things like therapy, being able to go and help people, get help working on your own self-awareness and your own kind of development, and dealing with, all the I guess the things that we as individuals kind of hold us back. So I think a combination of those two things is quite important. And from a mentor, I met a very nice guy. He was a German guy who'd moved out to South Africa. He was he was the CEO of a business called SoundCloud, which was like the first big music streaming platform. And him and his wife had, I think, a job in South Africa, so they were living here for a bit. And this guy took a liking to me. His name was Mark Striegel. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave me, which was very, very important when I look back retrospectively was he said to me, at the time I was very scared to hire senior people because we were still like a very scrappy startup. And he said to me, no, Matt, when you sign an offer for someone and that offer makes you feel uncomfortable, the amount of this person's salary, it's actually the most important thing you can do to grow your business. And when you do that and you look back in 6 months' time, having someone who's more experienced in an area of business or has, great, and help you learn and grow as a leader, actually fundamentally moves the business forward. So at first I was like, oh, Mark, I don't know if this is true. Expensive people, I don't know how hard they work, we found. And eventually I kind of took his advice and hired like 1 or 2 senior people. And having those people with deep knowledge really helped me as a lead and helped the business kind of move forward. And
I think it also touches back on what we were talking about earlier, the trust and learning to let go. Because if it is somebody who's more skilled than you, I guess it makes that a bit more easier.
Yeah, I think letting go for founders and business owners is a very hard thing to do. When you know your business inside out and you're used to doing all these jobs, to let go of that from a control perspective and a trust perspective is hard, and it's something that I battled with. I think, and it depends where you are kind of in that maturity curve. But eventually, if you're hiring good people, they're aligned with your purpose, they know more than you, and you give them little opportunities, and they actually do a good job, then you build that trust, and over time, if you're deliberate about it, you can let go more and more, and your job becomes more about creating clarity of where we're going and what we're trying to achieve, and letting the people that you've hired kind of do the jobs because you've hired them for a reason. But it is a big challenge for entrepreneurs, and it's something that you've also you have to have the balance between letting go of control of things, but also like you're still the guy or the guy or the lady, the business owner who has to keep your finger on the pulse. So I think what you have to do, which I found helpful, is letting go of things and kind of having this zoomed out view of the business, but then when there's problems in certain spaces, being able to identify those problems and then kind of rolling up your sleeves and digging into stuff. And then once that's fixed, and helping the team figure things out, then kind of zooming out again.
Yeah, I've actually seen a bit of that with you, when sometimes you'll ask detail in something, I'm like, how does he know that level of detail? Yet he's like, I would assume a CEO is just strategic.
Yes. I'm sure many people think it's very painful sometimes, but
like, what are you asking
it's like
about?
spelling errors. In,
like when do you
briefs.
get time to look at spelling errors?
Yeah.
But now that you're explaining it, it makes a lot of sense, and I guess that's a bit of your genius, that balance of knowing when to be strategic and look at things from a bird's eye view, and when to, if there's a problem, be skilled enough to zone in and give some input.
Yeah.
That's really great advice.
Yeah, and I think you've got to set the standard of what good looks like. So if sometimes you have to know the detail to be able to be like, guys, this isn't actually good enough. It should look like this, and then people learn from that, and then hopefully you can be less painful and they can just do it themselves the next time.
Okay, so iKhokha wasn't your first business, as we've learned, and you experienced a lot of challenges yourself as an SME. What I'd like to know is, how did, or does it still, shape what tools you build for our business owners today? Some of the tools we have at iKhokha, were any of those inspired by your experience as an SME?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first, obviously the product we launched with and that we kind of made our name on was being, the card payment piece for SMEs. And through my experience, I had, as I said, quite a poor experience with what that looked like, trying to get that from a bank. Before
A bank.
Yeah, we won't say which, we won't say. They were a green bank, but we're now quite good friends with them.
Okay.
But it was, I guess part of it, and it wasn't just, I think, about all banks were, they weren't geared to really help SMEs. There was a lot of paperwork, there was a lot of bureaucracy, there was kind of turnover thresholds that your business had to turn over X to even get a card machine. and then there was quite big fees for small businesses. So I think that was part of the inspiration. And then I guess some of the other tools that we built as we grew, there's probably two parts to the inspiration for that. I think the one part was really us learning what our customers wanted and needed and what their pain points were, and realizing actually we have really good data that we could use to, for example, give them a merchant cash advance product, because working capital is a big constraint for lots of businesses. So that was like, well, we have the data, this is a pain point for customers, this makes sense. And then some of the other tools around, I guess, business management probably link back to in Tilt, like, cash flow management and being able to see how the business was performing and what was our turnover tonight were very manual things. You had to do these long cash ups at the end of the night and then try to reconcile stuff which never really kind of fully added up. So I think although it maybe wasn't conscious, it was, I think, a lot of the tools that business owners need, whether they own a one-man hairdresser, or whether they own a butchery, or whether they own a restaurant, or whether they own a lawn mowing service, a lot of the things they need are actually the same, and the pain points they have are the same. So I think we figured that out as we went along.
Phew, I see some questions, lots of interesting questions coming up from you guys. But before we go to our Q&A session, I just wanted to ask, what are you cooking in the kitchen? What's coming?
What are we cooking in the kitchen?
What are we cooking? No, you cook. No. I take it to the people. What's coming next for iKhokha? Do you guys have do we have anything exciting coming up for our merchants?
We're cooking lots of things in the kitchen. We've got lots of pots on the boil. Some which we can share, some which are secrets. Okay. We want to surprise our customers with some of the secrets, but I think some of the key things we are building is the kind of stock management piece, which we're going to launch in hopefully the next few days or week. So that's quite an important one, because as you know, merchants can create products either on our card machines or on our dashboard, I should say rather, but they can sell products on the card machine or they can sell them online. But they can't at the moment see, well, I have 10 pairs of shoes, I've taken 5 payments for these shoes, now I only have 5 shoes left, I need to order more shoes. And that's obviously a gap we needed to close. So that's stock management, allowing merchants to create, actually how many of a different SKU or product they have, and syncing that across what they sell online and in person. So if they sell something through a pay link on WhatsApp, or they sell something physically to someone in their store, having that all kind of recon very simply in a place that's very easy for them to understand what stock they actually have in their business, what's selling well, and what they need to reorder. So that's quite a key one, and that's coming out in this next week. So I think I'm very excited for that. It's been a long time coming, but it's almost here. And then the other, I think, big one for us is our new app. The team's been working very hard. We've kind of built kind of our app from the ground up on the latest technology. It's going to be, we think, we're pretty confident, kind of the fastest card flow in the country.
That's a big statement.
It's a big statement, but we stand by it. We've seen it in action. It's lightning fast. So that's quite exciting. But I think as importantly, the app will be in time customizable. So different businesses will want to use the app differently based on how they take payments in their business, based on whether the staff members using the device or the owner or the manager. So it'll be quite customizable, and it will also bring together lots of the other really cool products and features that we've built that live in the dashboard or live in other parts of our ecosystem. So really, I guess, moving towards iKhokha just becomes the app that you use to run your business on a daily basis. You can see how your trade's going, you can see your turnover, you can see your stock, you can get your cash advance, and a whole bunch of other things, all very simplistically through the new app.
Sure. That's a very busy kitchen.
And there's a bunch of, I think those are the ones that are close. There's some bigger stuff that we're working on as well, which is probably even more exciting. I think there's lots that's coming this year. It's going to be a good year for merchants.
Yeah, that's great. Hopefully in the next live we can unpack some of those big things.
Let's hope.
So we've got some questions. Are you ready to tackle them?
I'm ready.
Let's see what we have. Okay, need to find the question. Okay, how many? Okay, enough time. So it says, Matt, doesn't say who it's from, but okay. Matt, when you think about back to the early days, what was the moment you realized iKhokha could actually work? Was there like a specific turning point?
I think it's a good question. I think the first and most important thing was actually just believing that it was going to work. Because if you looked at a lot of the indicators of was iKhokha going to work or not, and you were a normal, sane person, you would have thought this business is going to fail. Yeah. I think that that was the truth, was that for a very long time we were the underdogs, and there were lots of things that could lead to the business not working. So I think we had to have a lot of faith and belief in what we were doing collectively. And I think that was probably the most important thing that made the business succeed. Was less about this magic moment where we're like, oh, now it's going to work. It was just believing and incrementally every day being like, are we better than yesterday? Did we fix one thing today that makes us stronger than yesterday? Did we build one thing that makes us better than yesterday? And I think when you just add up all those little inches that we won, day by day, over months, over years, eventually then when you look back, it's like, oh, now it's a success. It was, it was obvious it was going to be a success, but there wasn't one moment where like, oh no, we've made it, it's going to be a huge success. I think we always believed in it, and we're just constantly looking forward to be like, okay. And Ramsey always would tease me, as I always say to him for many years and many different moments, the next 3 months are key. And that was what I always used to say to him. And even now, the next 3 months are key, right? Because I think businesses, you're only as good as your last day or your last month, right? It's like sports. And the world's always changing and evolving, and what customers want is always changing and evolving. So I think just don't worry about the magic moments, just keep believing, and just day by day make sure that you're getting better. And that's kind of a key part to getting it right.
So Matteo has asked, at this point in your career, do you still get scared or nervous when facing new projects?
It depends what it is, but yeah, I do. There are definitely moments where I get scared or nervous. I mean, yeah, 100%. I think the difference is that because I've put myself through lots of scary moments and then come out of those moments, I probably have more confidence that it's going to be okay, but it doesn't mean that there aren't still scary moments.
And I think this one is similar, from Joe. Says, please may you ask Matt if he ever suffers from imposter syndrome, and if so, how does he deal with that as a leader?
Yeah, I mean,
get it.
Yeah, I think in the earlier days, I definitely suffered a lot with imposter syndrome, because business, I hadn't led a business before, and it was still new, and I didn't know lots about what I was actually doing. I think I suffer with it less now. I think I still, as you grow and you get into these bigger spaces with, I guess, different levels, it's like going through, football's a good example. You play maybe third division, and then second division, and then first, then Premier League, then Champions League. As you get to, I think, the different levels, there's always going to be, a little bit of, well, sure, do I belong at this division? Can I compete? Can I add value? But I think it gets easier kind of, as you go along. But in some audiences, you will feel like, sure, have to remind yourself of what what you've achieved, and do some deep breathing, and you'll be okay.
Here's an interesting one which we haven't touched on. So, Matt, after putting so much time and effort into iKhokha over the years, was selling it always a business goal or a realized goal after interest gained from external parties? So as in, was that always the goal, or did external parties being interested in iKhokha then become, only then did it become a thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that creating value and having some sort of an exit was always probably part of the plan. I think the reality in a business like iKhokha, because you need lots of capital to build the infrastructure and the team and the technology to have a business that works like this one, you have to have external shareholders. You have to bring people in to your business who then ultimately become shareholders in the business. And a lot of in this space, in the technology space, where you have venture capitalists and private equity investors, often they actually have a timeline where the money they've given us, they have to return to their investors within a certain period of time. So our two of our bigger private equity investors who were kind of in this together, they had an exit timeline. So we always knew that at that point in time, it was likely that there would be some sort of sale, whether it was going to be a part of the business or the whole business was unclear. But we always knew that, I guess, an event like this would eventually kind of happen.
To add on to that one, I've got my own. Sorry, I'll get back to your questions just now. I just thought of something as you're answering this, because when you're talking about, today's topic is about building a business long term. Were there, when you're building for long term, are there differences if I'm building to sell versus building to just leave a legacy? Are there small nuggets there that you can share with our merchants that should all people run their businesses as if they were going to sell them? So if I've got my spaza and my big dream is to just get it bigger, not necessarily to sell it, versus you building this fintech and selling it. Are there business practices that you say apply to both of us, that every entrepreneur should have, whether you're going to sell or not sell?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I think that you should always build your business to be investable. So I think you want to try to think about your business as, if someone else came and looked at this business, would they actually want to put money into this business, whether you want to sell it or not, right? So if you want to. And that's, I think, important because for lots of businesses, capital is their biggest constraint to grow. So whether it's borrowing money from the bank, whether it's borrowing money from iKhokha, whether it's bringing in someone else to invest in your business and as a small shareholder, or whether it's actually selling the whole thing, I think that it's a good discipline and practice and mindset to have. Because ultimately then when you run a business like that, you're going to create good processes, you're going to manage your cash flow correctly, where you don't take money from your till and go, buy your wife's birthday present, or, you're going to do things that I think are very healthy business practices. So I think it's very good to do that. And again, like, obviously iKhokha is a big business, a very complex sale process, but going back to Tilt Nightclub, we also sold that business. Much smaller business, far less complicated, but I think you have to think about, well, what would an investor or a bank or a buyer want to see in this business? And sometimes you're not looking to sell the business and you will sell, and other times you might be looking to sell it but you don't find a buyer, but you're actually running it in a way that's healthy and good for the long-term success of it.
Discipline.
Yeah.
We have one from Tantla. What was the biggest reassurance to keep going, especially when the competition is big corporate? Biggest reassurance,
I think so. Like you have lots of hard moments where things go well and then things don't go so well, and often what I've found is in the really hard moments where we've struggled and you can't quite see the lights at the end of the tunnel, the universe gives you like a little gift, and the things that kind of kept me going were really two key things. The one is speaking to customers that we have and knowing that we're actually adding value to their lives. There was a woman who owned a tavern who wrote me a kind of a handwritten note. She was a single mom, her husband had died, unexpectedly. She had to support her kids, and basically was forced into taking on this tavern business. And we had lent her capital, we'd given her cash advance, and she wrote me this handwritten note saying I'd like changed her life, and without it her business would have closed. Yeah, it was very special. Wow. But it was things like that then you like, actually, what we're doing here is there's purpose, and it's making a difference, and that kind of gave us, I guess, the inspiration to carry on. Sure. So I think, when you can see that you're providing a service to people, and you're making hopefully the country a better place, that kind of gave us, I guess, the courage to carry on. And the second piece is seeing the people who we employed grow is the other key one. When you see people, there's people in this business, one who was a waiter who now has grown into a senior role in the business, who we scouted many years ago. There's another person who was a gardener who was earning 2,500 Rand a month, and who then took on a role in the business and grew. Other people who started in entry-level jobs, and have really made the most of their opportunities here, and seeing those people grow is also inspiration to kind of keep going.
Wow. I hope you still have that letter.
Somewhere, yeah.
Vimbai says, is it wise to leave my day job to focus on my side hustle? I do crocheting on the side, but it's slowing down because my day job takes all my time. This is, I'm sure, something a lot of people think about, the whole moving from side hustle into making it the main thing. Yeah,
I think it's scary for people, right? Because when you have a corporate job and you get paid a salary, there's security in that, and that at the end of the month your paycheck's coming. I think that there's a few things. The first thing is that if you don't take the risk and commit to it fully, and give it your full love and attention and focus, then you're never really going to know if it could or couldn't succeed.
Yeah.
And if it's something that you're passionate about, you've got to take the risk, right? In my view, because you can always go back to the corporate job at the end of the day. But if you don't give the side hustle the proper love and energy, and I guess, jump off the cliff and give it a proper go, you could in 20 years time look back and think, geez, I wonder if I could have made that into something that was a career. If it's something you're passionate about, I think you've got to give it a go, and you've got to think big. And if you do those things, then also the universe starts to line up for you. That's my experience, and the experience I've heard from lots of other people. When you take risks, the universe starts to give you the little breadcrumbs you need to get to the next part of the journey.
Sure, this is a good one. What's one underrated quality you look for when hiring someone?
Underrated quality.
One.
Sure. I think a good sense of humor is probably an underrated quality. I think, and there's a few reasons for that. The one is things aren't always going to go well, right? I think we know that. Life is it's a roller coaster. So I think people who can find humor in hard moments are good people to work with.
I would have never guessed that.
And often people who have a sense of humor don't always take themselves too seriously, which is also a good thing.
Wow. Okay, I'll take a last one. Second to last. I love this one. What's one merchant challenge you're personally passionate about solving?
Sure. There's lots of lots of merchant challenges that I'm passionate about solving. I think the main one at the moment is, as a merchant or as a SME in South Africa, you have to have all these different relationships. You get your card machine, from one provider. You get a loan from someone else. You get accounting from someone else. You get a bank account from someone else. You get your car finance from someone else. And you don't really want to deal with 7 or 8 different companies. I think for me, bringing all of those things together and iKhokha really becoming one point for an SME, where they can really run their business, all the things they need from one space, that's the pain points I want to solve. Is when they wake up, the first thing they do is open their app, and the last thing they do before they go to bed and it's got all the information and all the tools they need in one place. So we're not there yet. We well on our journey, but I think when that's really, all those things come together as one very simple product that helps SMEs really run their business from start to finish, then that's kind of the ultimate pain point for us to solve.
Yeah, that's a great one. And to end off, Cindy wants to know and wants a prediction from you. Will we win the cricket? For those who don't know, if any, the T20 semi-final is on right now. I don't know what the score is. I hope we're winning. T20 semi-final, Proteas versus Australia.
I feel like Cindy probably has more information about what the score is in the cricket right now, so she's probably setting us up for failure here. I would like to believe that after many, many very painful years as Proteas supporters, this is our tournament. I think the guys have done a great job so far, so fingers crossed that they can pull it off.
That's my prediction too. This is the year we finally do it. It's called 2020, fix it for a reason.
Nice.
Matt, thank you so much for your honesty and for sharing such powerful insights with us today. And thank you for everybody that's joined us, taking an hour out of your Wednesday afternoon to spend with us. I know how valuable your time is as an entrepreneur. And we hope the session has really been inspiring more than anything, and a little grounding as well. And for those people that are too scared to start, look, Matt has shared some lessons that you can hopefully relate to, and look where he is 15 years later. Well, look where iKhokha is 15 years later. And on our side, we will continue to build tools to help you so that you can focus on what really matters. Matt, do you have any final words for our merchants? Is there anything you'd like to say before we close off?
Yeah, I think first of all, thanks, like Yanela said, thank you very much for giving us an hour of your time. I hope it's been helpful in some way, and hopefully, there's the most important thing to take out of it is that building a business like this is not a perfect science, and there's lots of mistakes that you're going to make along the way, irrespective of what type or size of business you have. But just have the courage to believe in what you're doing and try and get better day by day. And from our side, as Yanela said as well, I think we are working incredibly hard across our entire team to really give you guys the tools that you need to succeed. There's lots of really amazing functionality we're gonna bring to life this year, and it's going to help you be able to focus on doing the things that you enjoy in your business, and let us manage lots of the things that maybe are painful or scary or time consuming, that we can simplify for you. And thank you for all your support. I mean, iKhokha is only where it is, and it's only become the success it has because of the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of SMEs that have supported us over these kind of 14 years. And yeah, the only thing we can really, we can continue to do is get better day by day. And yeah, collectively, if we can give you the tools you need to succeed, hopefully we can really help move small business forward in South Africa. So good luck to you. Hope it's an amazing year for everyone, and thank you for your support.
And that's it. that's it from us. Thank you so much once again for joining us. Please keep an eye out on your emails, WhatsApps. We'll communicate the next iKhokha Live with you, and hopefully we have some great stuff that we've been cooking that we can share with you in our next live. Have a great afternoon, and thank you.